I have been seeing all over social media on different posts that processing your emotion and learning emotional regulation is the most important thing you can do this year. That is what I've been seeing across the board. And it's exciting when I see it because I'm like, oh, that's what we do. But then it's also really painful because all these people are saying, do this, but then there are no tools for them. And so it's just hard for me not to wave a flag and be like, here we are. This is what we do. So today I wanted to talk about why. Why is emotional regulation the most important thing you can do and learn this year? So welcome to the Connection Codes. This is the podcast where we break open our emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I am your host, Tira Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis, and partner. Together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection.
Yeah. Well, hello world. Yeah. I got all caught up in what you were saying. You
Yeah.
What I usually say, we're so glad you're here, so I missed my last line.
there
That's
you
my
Well, we
fault.
are glad that you're here.
Hi,
glad.
friends.
Definitely that. Yes.
What a great topic. And as soon as you started saying it, I realized that so often one of the questions we get is, how do you process emotion? And I know I think people get stuck with the word process. And we tend to make everything complicated.
Yeah.
And that has been one of our strongest desires.
Like we as humans.
Yes, we as humans,
Well, and culturally too, I think.
but even like I want to lose weight and then I go after the most complicated system to lose weight kind of stuff, and it's kind of like, I don't know what that is. And because so many things are just not that complicated. And so in the whole idea of maybe repeat that as far as what is being said, like you're saying on social media, everywhere you turn, you're hearing this, that it's like the most important thing that we do.
Yeah. It says emotional regulation is the most important thing you can do all year. In fact, I just saw someone saying this, and then there's comment after comment after comment. But how do I do it? How do I do it? And then there's no response from the people. They don't know how to do it yet. They know whatever they do, like they're in a good place for themselves, but they can't teach other people. And I can't just go on someone else's page and be like, I can teach you how. I abandon this person and come to me,
Yeah.
And so it's just so painful.
Yeah, and part of it, and I feel anger about this, and I'm a fan of Freud. I think he was brilliant and certainly cutting edge for his time, no question about that. I'm not sure about that. Freud, Adler, Erickson, these early guys set us on a course in the wrong direction because people think if they figure out their childhood, they'll figure out their present. And this is one of the reasons that we don't ask why about, interpersonal relationships and interactions, because we don't necessarily know why. We can't figure out why. How in the world are you going to prove that the reason Glenn's behaving the way he is today because of what happened when he was 7? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. So if we find out what's happening, but there's so much information out there, which is a great thing and a terrible thing, because people go down so many paths. We sat with a couple yesterday, and he wasn't totally rude about it, but the guy, he goes, how do I know that your stuff is good? How do I know that your stuff has any value? He says, there's a counselor down the street from me. I could just go to him. And in his mind, and I'm not judging him, I get it, but in his mind, it's like a counselor is a counselor, a therapist is a therapist, a modality is a modality. It doesn't make any difference. Just one size fits all. It's all the same. And it's really hard for him to consider that, this is a completely different thing, completely different setup. And again, I'm not blaming him for that because he has no way of knowing. Of course, Phyllis and I are sitting there going, no. This is a different animal. This is not therapy based on, the typical model. So people just don't know. They have no idea, number one, what to do, and number two, that we actually found the answer to what to do.
Well, and we complicate things. I think that's circling back around to just the topic we want to dive into is we do complicate things. And it's almost hard to believe it can be this simple as far as how do we regulate and how do we process and, how do we tune in to what's happening for us. So you're seeing this on social media. I don't know that I've said it publicly, but I got off social media May 1st and I've not gotten back on. So for any of our listeners, if you are reaching out via social media and I'm not responding, it's because I'm not on social media anymore. So email if you're trying to get a hold of us. It's been very purposeful. I did it to help regulate my nervous system. And it's been very freeing and very helpful to me to not be on social media. But I know that I miss things because I'm not on it. So tell us a little more as far as how you want to break this down.
Yeah. So I think everyone knows that we all need to do a better job at not being so reactive.
Okay.
I think as a society, we all know that we don't want to just be screaming at each other all the time or feeling this constant sense of dread in our body or faking our positivity, like we talked about on an episode recently, just for the point of being positive, not even feeling the joy. So I think we all know we want to be in control of ourselves. I think so much feels out of control. But we don't know how to get there. And so one of the responses I read in the comments was, we need to model it for our kids, because they were like, well, how do we do it for our kids? They were like, well, we need to model it. Yeah, but it wasn't modeled for us. So where do we begin? And you and the connection codes have a 4-minute tool that teaches people how to regulate their emotion, which we will do at the end of this episode. If this is your first time listening, you'll see our tool in action. But what does regulating our emotion actually do? Why is it so important that we regulate it?
Well, I'm going to answer that question sideways a little bit because, again, part of what's maddening to me, I listened to a ton of podcasts, especially because we're on podcasts and we try to listen to the podcasts before we're on them. And this, I'm, again, not trying to be unkind or judging, but this woman whose podcast we were about to be on had someone on, a doctor of something, and went through, and there's 15 categories of humans, according to this expert. And I wrote it down. I couldn't even tell you what it was called, and I could barely pronounce it. But she goes through and she goes, it's so important that you learn these things. This is how you're born. Every child, you need to understand which of these 15 things your child is. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I have to learn all 15 of these? And for me to be a good parent, I have to figure out which one my 1-year-old is. I am convinced, and this is part I believe the power of the connection codes is so darn simple. There's lots of layers and nuances. Humans are very complex beings. I get that. But we're also pretty simple. And we don't have to learn all those 15 categories to figure out how to connect with our 1-year-old. We just walk in, and it's the 3 phrases. We literally go, oh, buddy, what's happening with you? And we don't always say I'm missing it, but that's what's happening is we're missing it. We're trying to figure out what their need is because this 1-year-old is conveying a need. And that's all we do. And we don't walk in and go, buddy, you need to figure out one of those 15 categories that you are, and then let me know, and then I'll be able to meet your need. What? No. And there's no birthday where that changes. And, I love research. I love reading. I have been for my whole life. And I used to drive Phyllis nuts because I would read this book, this 600-page book, and I would tell her about it. She tuned out after the second paragraph that I told her about it. And she's thinking, are you kidding me? Now we have to learn all that stuff too. Now with the connection, because I'm able to say to her, it's the 8 core emotions, which again is just the human condition. We didn't make this up. This isn't something that we invented. This is the human condition. It was around long before we were. And it's so simple. It's the exact same thing we do with our 1-year-old, our 2-year-old. And we don't have to label them to be able to do that. I don't even remember what your question was, Tira. I'm sure it was excellent. But that's just what lights me up because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, people, if we could just simplify this, we could actually get it.
Okay, I have a different way of asking it then.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I'm not
That
saying
was
your
really
question
good.
wasn't good.
No.
I just forgot.
What are some of the side effects of what you can experience
about regulating
when you are regulating your emotion and using them to connect?
Yeah. Well, just the nervous system. And again, you think of it as, pick something. There's a chandelier here in the room where we are. If it fell right now, for the three of us, our nervous systems would instantly be dysregulated. And we'd be like, oh, crap, what just happened? Well, and it's adrenaline, it's cortisol. So we now have a hormonal imbalance. We have a chemical imbalance in our bodies. Now, we'd pretty quickly figured out, oh, shoot, the thing just fell out. We're at Tira's place, so she'd feel more sadness about it than we would. But we'd be dysregulated. So now we can't function very well. We are biochemically knocked off balance. Well, the problem is when there's a chandelier dropping every, pick a number, 6 minutes or 20 minutes, we are not designed to be able to handle that. People are living in homes where they are continuously dysregulated. And you can literally, you can do a blood test. You can check your adrenaline and cortisol levels. And people are shocked to find out, oh my gosh. And there's a balance because you're not supposed to be too high in cortisol, not too low. Cortisol is crucial. That's just the human condition. But when you're imbalanced in that, it's incredibly unhealthy. So we have to be able to process the emotion to get again, there's so many nuances of it, but to get our hormones, to get biochemically balanced to function the way that we're supposed to function. So whenever I'm at odds with Phyllis, she looks like a wolf to me. There's a wolf in my living room. It's a beautiful wolf, but it still looks like a wolf. And it's just sitting there. Okay, it's not ripping at my throat, but I don't know if it's going to rip at my throat in the next 5 minutes, next 10 minutes. And it's unbearable. Dr. Alex Lloyd, a dear friend of mine, says that the human, and I haven't even researched this, but he says the human condition, we're designed to handle about 6 to 8 wolves a year. And most people are handling 6 to 8 wolves before lunch. They're so stressed. There's so much coming at them, and they don't know how to regulate. They don't know how to process. And so they're under that stress level. And again, if you just picture it, every morning you go out your front door and you get attacked by a wolf. I don't know. What's that going to do to you?
But
Unbearable.
Let's talk about what those wolves are. And just so people can actually put themselves in that scenario. And so for me, in my house, a wolf could be that I was not in the mood to have sex with Wes. I'm just making up a scenario. Now the next morning, he is not his chipper self because the night before he was denied sexually. Right. And so I can already sense that his mood is off in the kitchen. Yep. Okay, well, there's a wolf. I got to avoid that because I know I'm in trouble. Meanwhile, my child is trying to put on their brand new shoes that are not broken in yet, and they're screaming because they can't get their shoes on their feet and they can't find their Chromebook to go in their backpack. So now I'm being screamed at by another wolf. I have a deadline at work that I am behind on because my nervous system is so dysregulated I can't focus at my job to get it done. There's 3 wolves on my way into the office. A car cuts out in front of me. I think I'm about to be in a car accident. There's wolf number 4. So there are constantly these small, seemingly to the outside world moments that are happening. But when we continuously stay dysregulated, when we don't knock down that first wolf, the moment I see Wes in the kitchen, if we can't process that immediately, now they are piling on top of each other and we are functioning at a much lower capacity than we should be.
It's interesting. I just shared a minute ago that I got off social media and have been really surprised at how I am now able to, one of the big things for me is I'm able to now sit and read a book, just a fun novel for an extended period of time. Before, it was as though I just couldn't calm myself down enough to sit for any amount of time and just read a book. And it's interesting because we were just having this conversation about me being off social media for so long, and I don't even remember. Somebody said, "Hey," it was a really positive email that came in, but they were like, "If you want to see what I look like, or you want to connect, find me on Facebook or something like that," and it got us talking about there is I miss out, right? Because I've decided not to be on it. So I do kind of miss out on what people are up to if I don't connect call them, text them, or connect with them. But anyway, we started talking about a person that we knew, and we knew since we were teenagers, and not necessarily ever friends. We would see them maybe once a year, and about our age, or maybe younger. Maybe they're younger, but he passed away. So I was following his wife on social media, Facebook, simply because at some point over the past 2-3 decades, we became friends on Facebook whenever Facebook became a thing. Well, I felt the loss of her husband as though it was my dear friend. And I took on that where I've all of a sudden made it my thing to comment on her stuff, to start engaging with her. I'd never done that before. And really it had been at least 5 years since we'd ever seen them in passing. Like, we were not friends, right? We knew we were acquaintances, but not friends. And I thought, wow, how many of us take on stuff through social media and take it into our bodies? And we, like, everything you just now mentioned is actually a part of your everyday life. Your interaction with your husband, your kids, school, traffic. That's not going into an artificial world, but so many of us go into this artificial world to which we call social media, and then we start taking on
Other people's wolves.
other people's wolves. Or someone posts something, we don't even know if it's completely all true, that is happening in the world, and we take that on as another wolf. So we become so dysregulated in our nervous system. And I think your question specifically was, what helps? Like, not just what helps, but what are the benefits?
What are the benefits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I just had a new doctor visit, and it's all naturopathic, but trying to get some help with my hip. And she did a body scan. And so I saw her once, then I went back for my second visit, and she went over the body scan. She goes, okay, I've never seen this before. Never. I'm like, oh, okay. And she shows me my scan, and in the stress level of my body, I am a perfectly aligned human being.
Wow.
She said, I don't even have, like, because she was showing me what most of the time people have stress in their immune system and have stress in something gland and this and that, right? And she said, you're in this perfect region. I don't even have anything to hand to you. And she said, the only thing I can say is, because then she checked like my muscle something, and she's like, that's where your danger is, which has to do with my hip. And she said, but what's blowing my mind is that you have, and I didn't tell her about connection because we didn't have time. I had 15 minutes with this lady, and she was like, so what this tells me is everything within your body is going to bring 100% healing to your hip because you have no other stressors.
Wow.
And, I just absorbed what she said. I didn't know I was going to get this paper. I didn't really fully understand everything she was saying to me until later. And then Glenn and I talked about it, just the fact that is what Connection Code has done for me.
Wow.
I, at this moment in my life, am so, like non-stressors that now my body can heal.
Yeah.
And she's like, usually people have such dysregulation over here that she said, I have to work on just getting all of that aligned so then we can actually have any hope of healing this this
Pain.
and and the hip is an actual like injury thing. And she's like, I've never seen this. And she and I, I just smiled. It just didn't even register until I had already left. So I'm looking forward to seeing her again to be able to say, this is what Connection Codes has done for me, because I process in the moment. And I also think personally that me not being on social media means I'm not taking on all these other wolves and all these other people's wolves. I love the way you just said that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wait, I just have everyday stuff, but you know what? I'm processing and I'm sharing that with people that I'm safe with, that I'm close to. And I think this is where you're going with that, because I think the question too is, how do people do this? Like, how do you stay in this perfect alignment so that your body can get the healing it needs, your body can get the sleep it needs, on and on it goes, which are the benefits.
And it occurs to me, and I love the whole framework of the questions here, because I bet this is probably true. Most people don't even know what it means to be regulated. Most people don't even know the experience, the feeling of their nervous system being completely at peace. So when we talk about that, we might as well be speaking Greek. It doesn't make any sense to them.
Yeah.
Okay. And so whenever we say that, they're like, yeah. I had a massage yesterday, and that we're a culture of that. We treat the symptoms, and you can have all the massages you want. That's fantastic. But we're doing those things to try to counterbalance all of the stress, and we never actually get down to the core of, number one, the stressor, because you want to eliminate stressors when you can, and you can't always. I mean, stressors are a part of the human condition, but then also processing the stress. So we wait until the stress builds up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need a massage. Which again, it's great. Go get a massage. But we're not processing through what happened at the beginning of it, and so we're treating the symptom, not the cause. But that just occurs to me that I bet most people don't even know what that feels like.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. And it's something I would not have known 3 years ago what that feels like, because we are all just trying to stay afloat most of the days, just trying to get to the end of the day where we can get in our bed with our book or our Netflix and zone out until the next morning where we wake up and there's more wolves in our house. Right. And I do want to specify something here, that Wes Wages and my child and my boss, at your work, they are not wolves. They themselves are also functioning in a house where they are experiencing wolves. And it is just my experience, how I am experiencing them towards me. Wes could literally be in the kitchen making me breakfast, but because I am dysregulated over what happened the night before, I am now, not intentionally, but even projecting towards him. I assume he is angry with me or has negative emotions towards me because of the night before. And so we live in these cycles with each other where we are just filling in the blanks over what we think the other person thinks about us or views us as, because we aren't connecting over what's happening in our body, and we're not giving them the space to actually share with us what's happening for them.
Yeah. And when we always say the wolf is not about you, the wolf is about what's happening for the other. So I may look like a wolf to Phyllis, but that's about what's happening in her brain. I know that, and people get offended by like, I'm not a wolf. No, not me. I'm talking about what she's experiencing. And if she's experiencing stress and attack, whatever, I don't know what often is, but I often look like a wolf to Phyllis. What's beautiful is the last couple of years, she has learned to go, oh, that feels wolfish. I go, oh, I kid you not, 3 phrases. I go, oh, what's happening with that? What am I missing? She goes, I don't know. I just got hit with fear because I mentioned that thing and then you responded and that just felt wolfish to me. I get it. She felt fear. She did. Tell her to stop it. Tell her to shut up about it. Or I could just ooh the girl and be like, oh, wait, what am I missing there? Because I'm missing it, I guarantee you, because I'm thinking, what did I do? All I did is, said one sentence in response to your sentence. But she felt fear. She felt that I was her adversary. I was attacking, whatever. And we processed through that, which is the reason that she goes to this doctor. And the doctor goes, dang, woman, you're processed through.
So I love that now we've mentioned 2 really beautiful body benefits of why you should do the work, of why this is the most important thing you can learn this year, is to regulate your emotions. Yep. 1, it helps your cortisol. It helps your blood levels. Yep. It helps your nervous system regulate. 2, it lowers the stress and the tension within your muscles, within your physical body. So your body can be in alignment with each other. And I would also add to that, get better sleep, because you're not going to bed rolling over mad at your partner every night, or even one night a month is bad enough. We used to, a friend of mine, I said once, and then she relayed it to me recently, that if I don't go to bed angry, I'm not going to go to bed at all, and so many of us are in that cycle. So you get better sleep. And then also for what we've also experienced is just the deep connection in our relationships. I can use that example of me denying Wes and then the next day feeling like he is a wolf to me. That is our old life. And that doesn't mean that now today I'm having sex with Wes every single time he wants to, but now our sexual connection is so much better because we are emotionally connected, because we are regulating our emotions.
Yep.
And the next day, I don't have to be in fear that he's upset with me because I was unable to meet him the night before, and we have this mutual understanding because we are so connected with each other that it is rare to never that we become a wolf to each other at this point in our relationship. Now, my kids, sometimes we still feel like a wolf, but we're working on that. And we have made incredible strides. And honestly, it just feels that way because they are still processing out loud vocally, when they're upset.
Yeah, and I would say too, and the whole wolf thing is just an analogy we use to help you try to specify what's happening. Because you mentioned traffic, well, you're going to hit traffic all the time. So, and again, I don't have a scientific definition of that, but when you're processing through that, like literally when you're in the car, just go, oh, sad, sad, sad. We were going, the fair is in town, and we were going somewhere last night, and the traffic was ridiculous. And so we come over this hill, and we see like, a mile and a half of cars. We're like, oh, sad. So we don't experience a wolf. There is the stressor, but we don't experience stress because we process immediately in the moment. And the two of us literally are sitting there going, sad, sad, sad. Oh, a little bit of anger too, because look, that person blocked the intersection. And we're just processing it. We're commentating our own life as it's happening. And so none of that builds up. So my point is, I don't know how to define a wolf, but it's just something that brings stress, not the stressor necessarily, but it actually brings stress to you because you're not processing it through. So I don't know if that helps any. But
it's all in a way, and I know we talk about this a lot with connection codes and even on the podcast, and that's one of the reasons why we do the core emotion wheel at the end of each podcast. And this is a little side note. We love being guests on other people's podcasts, and due to a lot of Tira's hard work, we are probably on 2 or 3 every week. And we've gotten to the point where we do the core emotion wheel live in other people's podcasts. And it's always amazing to us how the host will react and be like, whoa, that was incredible. Because you can talk about all this, but if you don't see it in action, then it's just kind of another thing that it's like, well, I think I understand what they're saying, but what are they really saying? Because sometimes it's so, like, to us, we know what we're teaching, we know what we're saying, the words that we're even saying, what the meaning is behind them. But that doesn't mean, especially if you're a first time listener, you may be going, okay, I don't even understand emotions. Like I was taught, and that's my story, I was taught as a child that there's no space here for emotion. Task was what was expected in our home. It was what was praised. It was what was, it got the accolades. And it's really interesting because now all of my siblings, like, we will laugh about it, but we're all like neat freaks because that was what was expected of us as children. Yeah. Like, I mean, got on our hands and knees and scrubbed the floor, and the house was immaculate always. And we just were called to work. Like, we were workers, and from a young age on, and which is not a bad thing, but there was no space or room to ever have emotion. And so I learned, just don't. And I thought I could opt out. And I used to take a lot of pride in that because I was like, ugh, Glenn has enough emotion for both of us. I don't do emotion. Yeah. Well, that about wrecked me because then I was always dysregulated, right? My body was suffering for years and years and years because I wasn't getting any of it out. So for me, when I started learning this is super unhealthy, and I actually have a region in my brain that houses emotion, I'm like, wow, I'm missing a part of my body. Like, I know I have toes, I know I have fingers, I know how to use those, but I have a part of my brain that houses emotion. So I had to tune in, and I had to learn how to ask myself, what is happening for me? And I resisted. I mean, I was a difficult, what'd you call me?
Case
A
study.
case study. I was a difficult case study because when he even suggested I had fear, I spit it back at him. I'm not afraid of anything. I just had no clue that fear fired in my brain.
Yeah.
And so when I started actually tuning in, it was shocking to me how much fear I had.
Definitely.
But I wasn't calling it.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
acknowledging it. So I was just storing it in my body, which is so damaging to your immune system, to your, to your
Yeah,
body.
we cover so much of this in the relationship science modules of the Foundations course, which are bonus modules, but we really encourage people to watch those because 94% of the healing of our body occurs whenever we're sleeping. And it's 94% no matter what. But the problem is that only happens when the psyche is at rest and the healing for it to be maximized. So for most of us, our bodies are not healing themselves at night to the degree that they're supposed to. It's still 94%, but it's 94% of 10% of what you needed to happen. Now, for one night, that's not a big deal. For 2 nights, you're fine. But you add that up days, weeks, months, a year, 2 years. Doctor, and I'm going to misquote this research, but Dr. Case says that he has isolated hardening of the arteries. I think he says down to it's either 5 or 6 weeks, which up until his research, we thought it was years. And he does that through solitary confinement because you shouldn't confine people for 3 years. That's unhealthy. But so he's gotten volunteers to do that. And again, it was either 5 or 6 weeks. And he's actually, now it's just definable. He can show it. It's quantifiable that he shows hardening of the arteries within 6 weeks. People are living in loneliness, disconnection, pain for years and years. And then we're startled that this 42-year-old has a heart attack. I'm surprised he didn't have a heart attack 10 years ago. I'm surprised I didn't have a heart attack. So the fact, because again, we're always shocked, like, oh my gosh, can't believe it. He's so young. Yeah, but considering the way that we end up living, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. Not that it ever happened, but that you'd think it'd be happening all the time.
Totally. So I am really appreciative of y'all answering this question. I think it's so helpful for people to understand why people keep saying that learning these tools is the most important thing you can do this year. And we are at the point now we have 5 months left in the year. So you have time to do this and to end this year healthier in your body, healthy in your brain, in your nervous system, and Lord, in your relationships.
Yeah.
You have the time to do that. And now we are going to show you our simple tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis created to actually teach you how to do this. So next time you're on Instagram and someone talks about emotional regulation, you can say, oh, the connection codes can teach you how to do this because people are searching for this answer and they have it.
Yeah, I do have to throw this out here real quickly because and again, I'm just a science project. I'm just a lab rat. I'm observing myself. I fall asleep in seconds. Now, I used to lay beside this woman for hours.
Yeah.
Feeling so much pain, and I'm not blaming her. That's just what was happening. The cycle in between us. I would lay literally for 2 hours, 3 hours. I'd go to sleep 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to get up at 6:30 to go to work, and it startles me. And she has always been a great sleeper. She'll fall asleep in 15 seconds, which always annoyed me a bit. I never would have thought it that, and we've not. I don't think either one of us have awakened to an alarm. I think in years. Is that fair?
Yeah.
We just wake up.
Unless we have an early morning flight.
Yeah. But even then, I feel like we wake up. I don't know. But anyway, it just startles me the quality of sleep that we get. And everybody listening has probably awakened in the morning before and said, I'm more tired now than I was when I went to bed. That's because your psyche is not at rest. Your limbic system is flooded and your body's it's not going to heal itself, but also you don't even get rest. And so now you're tireder when you wake up than when you went to bed.
Totally.
Wow.
That's good.
Okay, we doing the wheel?
Actually, it'd be fun if you and I did the wheel.
Ooh, I would love to.
Sorry, babe.
I can ooh.
Oh, good. Will you start?
Oh, yeah, I can start. Let me see. I feel fear that All of my kids are in school now, which is so much joy.
Yeah.
But if you listen to any of our podcasts in the spring, I have a lot of fear with my kids being in school every single day. And now we're back to the having to do the hug and then walk out the door and me having a pit in my stomach until they walk back in the door. And so I have that fear. I have guilt. I have guilt because I haven't spent very much time with them recently.
Wow.
And yeah, I would like to spend some dedicated time. I feel guilt about that. I have shame because I've hired a virtual assistant, which is just the greatest thing in the world. But I have shame that I am not creating the systems fast enough for her and that she may feel like she's like waiting on me for a task sometimes. So I have shame in that. I have loneliness because Wes has been gone some. We had a great date night last night, but we haven't had a ton of time together here recently. So loneliness there. Sad that I got into it with my dad this weekend. I processed this a little bit with y'all. We had some conflict. And yeah, so I'm sad that he and I miss each other quite a bit.
Wow.
We just are two very different personality types. And I know I'm missing something. Hurt. Hurt's going to be hard for me. Probably hurt because I bought my kid a new pair of shoes and then they complain about it every day. And I just feel so hurt. It's like, pick out what you want in the store and then now commit to wearing it. So I have hurt. And then I have joy. In this moment, I have joy because it's raining outside. So that means that I may have a soccer practice canceled tonight.
Oh,
So I can just like snuggle up with my kids on the couch. And so I have some joy thinking about that.
Wow. That's definitely in the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. Well, okay. So you kind of brought up spring and then you brought up summer and now it's time for the kids to go back to school. So I'm kind of thinking about just, I think I feel some guilt that as a team, we have not been together much this summer. And the guilt is just because I know it's important that we stay connected. So there's some guilt in that. I think that my shame is that I kind of lost over the summer we traveled a ton. And so it's more personal, physical, just some shame that I got off track. I've been off track. Some fear. I know I've shared this before, but because of some injury I'm dealing with, trying to get my body back, it's very challenging for me to exercise. And so I feel fear of just, I get this back and need to, which kind of connected to the shame as well. Let's see, hurt. I think that, my hurt right now is physical, just that I'm so aware of the pain in my body and am working really hard to get some healing in that and I have all these exercises I do all day long, which is part of the process, which is great. I'm thankful for some clarity and some real hope in that. But, my hurt is physical right now.
Yeah.
Sad. It's funny. Your joy about the rain is my sad. Because we've got a lot to do before we get out of town. And so I'm just thinking I'm just going to be wet. That's what's going to happen here in a minute. Let's see. Lonely. Man, I think that because we've been gone a lot this summer and I have not stayed up on friendships like I want to and need to. So there is that lonely. And I think even being off social media, as I shared earlier, brings some lonely. Like I don't hear from people. I wonder I bet people don't even know I'm off social media. So it's like they probably assume I know what's happening in their life, but I actually don't because I'm not hearing from them. So there's some lonely in that. Anger. That's always a tough one for me, for sure. And just that, I think right now there's some stuff that's been happening in my family of origin, and it brings me back to how we don't want to be transparent. And so it's like, I'm getting text messages going, do you know what's going on? Because they posted something on social media, but what does it mean? And I'm just like, I'll never know because we're not going to talk about it, but they do put these hints on social media. So anger in that, because I feel like we're just passing it on to the next generation. And I don't know. My family of origin, it's just really painful for me. And then joy. I've said this all day long, feel a lot of joy because we are getting away and we're going to the beach and we're taking our oldest granddaughter with us. She's 18 and we've never done anything like this. And super excited. She's going to be with us for a few days before she flies back. Yeah. So a lot of joy.
Love it.
Love that. Wow. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So if you're listening and this is your first time listening, imagine doing that scenario. It's awesome to do it with your friend. I love knowing what's happening with Phyllis. Like she told me things I didn't know that she was experiencing. Yeah. But now imagine it also with your child or with your partner. Yes. I remember the first time I ever did it with Wes, I was shocked by some of his answers. Yeah. And we were in a great relationship at that time. I thought that I knew everything about him and I was still blown away by him. So if you're saying to yourself, okay, I need to do better. I need to learn this tool. I need to learn how to regulate my emotions before the end of this year. Start by downloading this Core Emotion Wheel. There's a link in our show notes. And if you're like, okay, no, I'm ready to dive in and go all in on this, then sign up for our Foundations Masterclass. Yep. There's also a link for it with a discount code, 20% off using podcast. And that is a tool that we can teach you and your partner how to use this system, the entire framework where we go through identity. We talk about the wolves. We talk about how to see one coming so you can spot a fight before it even happens. Right. And when I say it works, I'm telling you, Wes and I haven't fought. It's been 10 months now.
Wow.
It's a game changer. Yeah. And you can find that link also in our show notes. We are so thankful that you are here, that you show up every single week. And we hope that you continue to dive deeper, find more of our podcasts that you haven't listened to yet, and see what all this emotional regulation is about. Absolutely. We do this because...
Yes, you need this.
You deserve this.
So let's do this.